On this episode, we are celebrating today. Today, on this very day, 4 years ago, Movie Timelines uploaded this very first video, which was the Friday the 13th horror timelines. And I figured, we gotta do something to celebrate that. I will confess that my original plan for celebrating this was launching a brand new series with a Friday the 13th themed episode, but unfortunately all that footage is on my computer that died. So it's going to be delayed, and I had to come up with this instead. So we are going to be celebrating. We're celebrating 4 years of a channel I started as a silly hobby, but now have close to 20,000 subscribers, and it's growing every day, and I thank every one of you guys. So let's celebrate by talking about the 13 unanswered questions about Friday the 13th. If you've watched this series, you know that there's a lot of things that don't make sense when you watch them all together, so let's talk about them. Number 13. What happened to Paul at the ending of part 2? So let's take a look at what we know. At the ending of the film, Paul and Ginny are both alive and go back to the cabin. We get the scene with Jason smashing through the window, and then we jump to the following morning as Ginny is taken away in an ambulance asking where Paul is. We get some more clues in part 3 as we see a wounded Jason dragging himself away and a news report that calls Ginny a survivor. Not the sole survivor, a survivor. So I think it's debatable, but I think that these things point to Paul being alive and the window smashing scene being a dream sequence. Parts 1 and 3 ended with dream sequences, so that makes sense to me. Jason in the lake wasn't real. Jason's mother in the lake wasn't real. It's very likely that Window Jason is also not real. My evidence for this is that when they first show Jason in part 3, he's crawling away from his confrontation with Ginny. Now, it's possible that he could have gone back to the cabin from here for the window bit, but why wouldn't the movie show him leaving there instead? I think showing Jason here is the movie's way of saying this is the last place that we saw him. Also, when did you ever know Jason leave behind a potential victim? If he knocked down Ginny and him and Paul fought and he killed Paul, why would he not then just kill Ginny? I think the more likely scenario is that Paul went to get help and sent the police back. Plus, the window smash being a dream explains the drastic change in Jason's appearance between that scene and just a few hours later in part 3. Number 12. Speaking of those dream sequences, what was up with those? At the ending of the first film, Alice sees Jason jump up from the lake. Ginny has the window smash bit, which I guess may or may not have been a dream, but Chris seeing Jason's mom pop up definitely was. Keep in mind, she doesn't know about Jason's mother. She didn't see her body in the cabin, and she should not have known what Pamela would look like, or even possibly the fact that she exists. So what was up with these dreams anyway? I think Chris's experience shows that something possibly supernatural is going on. If you take the context of the later films with telekinesis and zombie Jasons and body switching, it's clear that otherworldly elements aren't out of the question. They might seem out of place in the first couple of movies, but when you consider the overall franchise, it's pretty clear that there's other forces at work here. It's clear that whatever is tainting Jason and Pamela is an influence of evil of a sort and manifests in dreams. I'd even go so far as to say that Tina's visions in part 7 are tied into this more so than it being connected to her telekinesis. Possibly her powers make her more sensitive to this as well as Rennie from part 8. Number 11. And hey, since we're talking about Chris from part 3, did Jason rape her? Is Jason a rapist? Let's look at what's happened. She's in the woods alone, sees Jason, he chases her, she blacks out, and then wakes up in her bed the next day. The insinuation is that she went through a trauma and was possibly assaulted, but I think it's pretty clear here. Rape has never been Jason's MO. Looking at all of the films, there's literally dozens of times where he was alone with a female character. If this was a part of his tactics, I think he would have acted on those impulses a little more frequently. Keep in mind, on at least a few occasions, Jason is in a room with a woman wearing either no clothing or next to no clothing, and he doesn't act inappropriate with them. I mean, except for killing them. Most likely, Chris was attacked by Jason trying to kill her, she escaped and made it home, and her memory has blocked that portion. Number 10. And let's go back to part 2 again for a minute, and instead of the end, let's talk about the beginning. How the hell did Jason find Alice? Here's what we know about Jason. He's an idiot. I mean, he's clever when it comes to hunting and hiding and killing and stuff, but he's completely out of it when it comes to societal standards and things that are accomplished. Even if we really reach to say that maybe, just maybe, Steve had files on everyone that Jason found and they had Alice's address in them. So even if we say that, how would Jason even know where that was? This is a guy that grew up in the woods, and it's pre-internet. There's no Google Maps here. What resources does he have finding out where an address is located, and then how the hell does he even get there? He doesn't drive, and I'm guessing he's not taking public transportation. The only real explanation is that he walks. I guess she lives the walkable distance, although I can't really explain how he knows how to find her house. Number 9. And hey, speaking of part 2, Jason's alive, so the question becomes, is Jason's mom aware of this? We know that he drowned in 1957, or at least Pamela thought he did, and I guess he just survived and lived alone in the woods for 20 years? So none of that makes sense, since first of all, why would Jason do that? Presuming he survived a drowning, what reason does he have for not just going home? For him to stay hidden in the woods, he would have to actively avoid people looking for him instead of trying to get home. My first instinct is to think that maybe he wasn't that happy at home and maybe took this as a reason to get the hell out of there and run away, but that can't be true because of the connection that Jason had to his mother. He was obsessed with her to the point that he kept her head around after she died and swore revenge. And well, there's my answer. He wasn't swearing revenge. My take is that Jason's relationship with his mother is not as loving as you believe. Pamela clearly wasn't all there and had a tendency towards violence. Who's to say that she was good to Jason before his drowning? It's not a leap to say that he either faked his drowning or almost did for real and then used that opportunity to escape from his mother's grasp. Then, after seeing that his mother was willing to kill for him, his simple mind saw her love and possibly felt guilt or remorse, sparking that revenge drive. Number 8. If we're still talking about those early films, we have to ask one really important question about Part 4. The most important question about Part 4. And that question is what happened to Gordon the dog. As the Jarvis family pet, the last time that we see Gordon is encountering an off-screen Jason. He yelps, and then we see him going out the window, and we never see him again. Now, I think we're supposed to interpret this as Jason killing the dog, and I guess throwing him through the glass, but I mean, look at this. The dog is clearly jumping. I'm sure that it's just that it's easier to train a dog to jump through fake glass than it is to risk hurting an actual dog or building a convincing dog puppet, but I mean, he's jumping. Based on this, it's my official opinion that Gordon survived, ran off into nearby Crystal Lake, shacked up with a local Shar-Pei, and lived a long, prosperous life. Number 7. Oh, hey, since we're talking about Part 4, let's talk about the ending. Jason is killed. He's dead. This is really, really dead. That machete goes so far into his head that there's no question. And then Tommy just starts hacking away even more. So, if his body officially dies, then, as we learn in Part 9, why didn't he switch bodies? I mean, I know that the real answer is that concept wasn't created until Jason Goes to Hell in order to switch up the franchise, but how does it work in the context of this series if you just really, really want to make it work? Well, there's a couple of possibilities. My go-to theory is this. That echo of a heartbeat that the doc heard before he ate Jason's heart was the same lure that Tommy was hearing all throughout the 5th film. The same way that the doc was drawn in the morgue was how Tommy just had to dig up the body. He was answering some sort of call as the evil spirit of Jason chose him to take over. Tommy snapping and shoving the spike through the corpse was him shaking off the call and fighting it. The lightning strike was just a happy coincidence for the big guy to bring him back, a method that he was unable to use in Part 9 because his core body was too far gone, although who knows, possibly if you would have electrified those parts, they could have come back and there'd be Jason parts crawling after people or something, I don't know. Number 6, hey, that makes us talk about Part 6 for a minute, so let's talk about that ending, and by extension of that, Part 7, because they both end the same way, with Jason chained up at the bottom of the lake. In part 6, before he's there, he wipes out a bunch of police officers. Both killing sprees were very public, so why did law enforcement just leave their perpetrator out there in the water? I mean, you'd have to assume that there'd be an investigation, and even if you wanted to say that Tina didn't tell anybody about Jason's involvement or what happened to him, there's no way you could say that for part 6. That finale was witnessed by a whole camp of kids, and my first inclination is to say that the police blamed Tommy for the killings based on his record, but you've got to figure that a dozen eyewitnesses would probably clear him, so that's kind of out. So my answer is not too complicated, but I think that after all of the previous events, I think that the surrounding law enforcement are fully on board with the notion of Jason's refusal to stay dead and just realize it's better to just leave things be, I suppose. Number 5. And since I mentioned part 7, we need to talk about the fact that Jason's mask was cracked in half at the ending of it. It was the same mask he picked up back in part 3 and lasted all the way until then. I don't know how Tommy got his hands on it though. You'd think that after part 4 it'd be in an evidence locker somewhere, and I'm pretty sure that the one in the drawer at the ending of part 5 is more metaphorical than it was the actual mask. So when Tommy has the mask at the beginning of part 6, he'd have to obtain it from somewhere. So let's just, I guess, assume that he either broke into the police station to retrieve it, or possibly had a friend on a force that was able to get it for him somehow. But what the hell is up with part 8? So the mask is destroyed, right? But this guy on a boat just happens to have a hockey mask to scare his girlfriend, and it just happens to fit our guy? And it just happens to have a slash in the forehead in the exact spot the original one had? The only way, and I mean the only way, that this makes sense is if Jason's legend was extremely well known to the point that he was actually marketed. Like, replicas of his mask were sold in stores, although you'd think if that were true, there'd be a bit more of a fuss around the lake being his final resting place. Number 4, and if we're talking about part 8, we have to talk about one other thing: Jason's teleportation powers. There's at least 2 or 3 instances of us seeing Jason in one place, watching a character run away from him, and then suddenly Mr. V appearing in front of him somehow. You can't say he just knows the territory better than his opponents, because I'm pretty sure that he's never been to New York Hoover before. Hate to say it, but I don't think I could even come up with a silly cover-up for this one. The only suggestion that I have is that since Jason returned from the dead, he had several supernatural abilities that he could access. So why didn't he use them more frequently? Well, he's an idiot. I guess he just couldn't use them properly and did it more instinctually. That's all I got. Number 3. Okay, so this is a minor one, but let's look at Jason X for a minute. That's all I really want to look at it for. This one's less of a question and more of something that bugs me. So, near the ending of the movie, KM is given an upgrade, and she has this badass gun, and it's able to blow Jason's legs and head off with a single shot. So the question is, where was this gun earlier? Why wouldn't the mercenaries, the trained professionals, use this weapon against Jason? Let's just ignore the fact that Jason seems to know his way around a ship that he's never been on, that this team has been living on. Did they just forget that they had this thing? I don't have an answer for this one because it's just dumb. But I'm sure that there's some Jason X fans out there that'll fill the plot hole for me in the comments, so let's hear it. Number 2. So this is a general series question, but who exactly is Jason trying to kill? Sometimes it's just anyone, and other times it's pretty specific. It seems like in the earlier films, it's really just whoever is on his territory. Like if you're in the camp, you're dead. I guess he's open to revenge, as Alice's death tells us? That doesn't really explain why he got on a ship heading out of Camp Crystal Lake to kill kids, though. And then, once off that boat, why he continued to chase those specific kids, ignoring all the people around him. In part 9, he definitely has some sort of agenda since he's trying to get reborn, so that one's kind of obvious, but what is it that he's trying to achieve in the early ones? Someone makes a statement at one point about the children of Crystal Lake, like Jason specifically hunts the children that are from that part of his territory, I guess to give him more of a Freddy thing going on, but all the kids in the earlier films aren't actually from there. Most of them are just visiting the lake. My take on it changes as the films go on, because I think that in the earlier films it really is just a territorial thing, but I think in the later films it's more, I guess, more of an obsession thing. He'll kill anyone that he encounters, but he defaults to that person until they're dead. The reason why he's so specific in chasing particular teens, even when there's other people around, is simply because he hasn't killed them yet. Once he had killed the people he was specifically after, he would have gone on back to more of a more generalized killing spree. And now, number 1. Which Friday the 13th is the best one? Well, I don't have an answer for you that right here, but I do have an answer for you coming up in a new series that I'm launching. It was supposed to be the video that launched today, but instead it's going to be launching in the near future whenever I get those files up and running. But it's a new series called Dead Last. Me and a panel of people will be helping to rate all of the movies. We're going to be giving the entire series a ranking, adding them up, and figuring out which Friday is best. We're going to be doing this with other series in the future, maybe not even just specific franchise. We might even be branching into other directors and maybe even some genres to find out which one is the best and which one is ranked dead last. And the series will be called Dead Last. So look for the first episode of that in the near future, where we'll be ranking the Friday the 13th movies to find out which one is best. Well, that's it. Those are the questions that I have for you. Hopefully you've liked my answers down below, and let me know what you thought of them. Give me some comments. Let me know if you disagree with any of the answers that I've had. Let me know any other questions that you have about the series. Of course, do the liking and subscribing thing and help me celebrate 4 years of this series and this channel. And check out the new shirts we have up on the store. There's several different shirts now, including a Friday the 13th shirt, which has the timeline on the back. So make sure you check that out. And please check out my Patreon page over here. These guys are great and they help keep this channel going. And they've been helping it keep going for 4 years. I still can't believe that that's how long this has been happening. But anyhow, thanks for sticking with me through the whole thing. And I'll see you very, very shortly for another great video. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Happy birthday to you. Hope you have a happy birthday.
I just want to wish a happy 4-year anniversary on this day, May 30th, 2020, to Movie Timelines. It's been a great 4 years, 4 years ago being 2014, of course. It's been so great that this 4-year anniversary that's landed today in 2017 has been so great. It's been 4 years of great timelines. So here's to another 4-year anniversary, 4 years from now, in the great year of 2007.
Hey, just wanted to wish a happy anniversary and thank you for everything you do. I'm one of your patrons, so thank you very much for everything you do. I love your channel. Binge watch it all the time, and I don't really watch or binge watch anything, so appreciate everything you do. Thank you very much.
Hi, Chucky, wanna play? Now the first thing we gotta do is get me out of this body once and for all.
Well, I'll make this quick because Chucky obviously needs some help. Happy anniversary, Josh. I love the channel. Learned so much from Movie Timelines. I can't wait for more years to come. You do a lot of hard work and it is appreciated. Happy anniversary, buddy. Take care. Bye.
Happy 4th anniversary to Movie Timelines from over here in Scotland.
Hey, I wanted to make this quick little video to wish you happy 4 years on YouTube. I've been watching your videos for a couple of years. I've loved them, and I can't wait to see your future ones. See you later.
Happy anniversary, 4 years. Yay.
Happy 4-year anniversary to Movie Timelines from me, Freddy. My continuity is airtight.
Hello. I wanted to wish
a very, very happy 4th, huh? Just 1 minute. I need to finish this up. So, very, very happy. Not cool, man. Not cool. Happy 4th anniversary movie timelines. Here's to many more.